Um, this is the start of day 2, I think. I'm not going to keep track of the days, but just so I can keep track of it later on. And I'm reading 10 Minutes, and it is in the book, the Baron Trump collection. And I am on page 110. Okay. Nay, nay, little Baron. A gourd full of water from the sparkling rill near his home in the rocks is sweeter to him than any nectar ever distilled by the hands of man. They say he has learned. Then shall my gift be a score of rare old books, priceless parchments filled with thoughts so noble, so deep, so subtle, that to read therein means to live 1,000 years in one. Ay, little master, replied my guide with a mournful smile, thou art still astray. This dweller mid the rocks, this lover of solitude, the measure of whose life, they say, is full 300 years, knows no other books than the pages of his own soul. On these he has turned his thoughts so long and so diligently that the foolish outpourings of so-called authors seem like the merest prattle of childhood. But look, little master, we are drawing near the home of the blind hermit. I turned my eyes in the direction indicated. A rocky ledge, wild, craggy, broken, seamed and twisted, crowned with a growth of pine trees having knotted, gnarled, and fantastically shaped trunks and boughs, shut in our view. As we drew near the entrance to Beniaga's cave, a troop of dogs of various ages and species came bounding forward with loud barkings. Bulger advanced to meet them boldly, after first glancing at my face to see whether I objected or not. It was a long while since he had met any of the members of his race, and then again he doubtless wished to get a good look at these residents of such distant land. The feeling seemed to be mutual, for in an instant the barking ceased, and the hermit's dogs gathered about Bulger in silent wonderment. After a series of salutations, which plainly ended in the best of fellowships, the hermit's dogs endeavored to lure Bulger away for a run in the forest and fields, but in this they were, I need scarcely say, entirely unsuccessful. Bulger gave them to understand, in very decided terms, that he would talk with them and even romp with them, but that it must all be done under the eyes of his master. We now halted and dismounted. This is the place, said my guide, in a low tone. Through that deep fissure in the rocks thou wilt find a path that leads to Beniaga's cave. Enter it boldly, little master. At the entrance to the cave thou wilt find a dried gourd hanging on the rocky wall. Seize it. When shaken, its seeds will give forth a loud, rattling sound. This done, move not, though the shadows of evening find thee still standing on the rocky wall. Seize it. When shaken, its seeds will give forth a loud, rattling sound. This done, move not, though the shadows of evening find thee standing still at the door of Beniaga's cave. Farewell thee, little master. Heaven make good to thee tenfold thy kindness to me. I will await 3 days. If by that time I do not hear thy voice calling me to serve thee again, I shall return to my kindred. I was out in the sun earlier. Okay. Advancing to the cleft in the rocky wall, I found the gourd hanging by a leathern thong. The loud rattling of seeds as it broke the deep silence of this wild and lonely place, fit vestibule to a temple devoted to silence, solitude, and meditation, startled me painfully. Restoring the gourd to its place, I leaned forward to catch the faintest sound of the hermit's voice, which might reach my ear. It came not. The silence grew more oppressive than before. The broken, twisted rocks overhanging and surrounding me took on fantastic form. In every dark cavity I saw some misshapen creature stirring about. A dreadful feeling of loneliness crept over me. No sound came. save thy loud throbbing of my own heart. No sound came, save the loud throbbing of my own heart. A half hour went by. Beniaga spoke not a word. Perhaps he sleeps, I whispered to myself. My words awakened the echoes of the rocky recesses, and the word sleeps came back to my ear in 100 different tones, now loud and hissing, now soft and sibilant. At last a full hour had now gone by since I had rattled the seeds of the dried gourd, and yet the blind hermit spoke not a word. Again the death-like stillness sank upon the place, and gathering shadows grew deeper and deeper. Could the guide have played me false, I asked myself. Clyde's coming in. Come on, Clyde. Nay, they cannot be. And yet, why comes there no sound from Beniaga's cave? Shall I summon him once more? May he not have gone forth to gather food? Am I doomed to be turned back when I have reached the very threshold of my long-wished-for desire? These and 100 other questions flitted through my mind as I stood in the dark and gloomy corridor that led to Beniaga's cave. By the shadows on the rocky wall, I could see that I had now been standing at least 2 hours awaiting summons to draw nearer. But hush, he speaks at last. My heart bounded joyfully, and yet as if it were leaden weight upon it. Who is it that disturbs my meditation, were the hermit's words. A stranger, a brother, one who needs thy guidance, I replied in a firm yet humble tone. No human creature is stranger to me. Thou art too young to be my brother. The light that is left me shines only for my own feet. Came slowly from the hermit's cave in a full, deep, rich voice. True, great master, I replied, but then may I not be thy son and follow thy footsteps? Thou art very wise for thy years, spoke Beniaga. Not so wise, great master, was my reply, as I shall be when I have sat at thy feet. Come somewhat closer. Thy child voice sounds like an echo, continued the blind hermit, and yet thou art not a child. Some great spirit plays in sportive mood behind thy face. I see thou art blue-eyed and flaxen-haired. Thy eyes are wide-set, a sounder, and above them towers a dome of thought. Thy home is in the land of the Norsemen. At least thy fathers dwelt there. On thy cheeks glow the crimson which, in the peach and apple land, stains the autumn foliage. As I had not yet even stepped within Beniaga's cave, these words of the blind hermit caused a strange feeling, half of fear, half of dread, half of fascination, to creep over me. Half of fear, half of dread fascination to creep over me. My heart throbbed violently. His ear, far keener than a bird's or beast's, caught the sound. Fear not, little one, said he in deep, rich tones, full and swelling like the voice of organ pipes. That hasn't been going the whole time. My timer hasn't been going the whole time. Fear not, little one, said he in deep, rich tones, full and swelling like the voice of organ pipes. If thou canst content thyself with a handful of berries, then thou art hungry. With a draught from the neighboring rill, when thou art thirsty. If thy young limbs are sturdy enough to repose from a rock couch, then art thou welcome. If not, go thy way. For 20 years I've been busy with a certain problem and have no time to stop and spread a more bountiful repast. But season thy frugal fare with thy wisdom, great master, I returned, and it will be sweeter to my palate than stall-fed ox and mellow wine. Come somewhat nearer, little traveler, so that I might see thee better, spake the blind hermit kindly and gently. I did not wait for further summons, but stepped boldly into Beniaga's cave. It was in truth little more than a lofty cleft in the rocks, with several deeper recesses, in which the shadows lay undisturbed. Its roof of jagged, broken, and blackened masses of stone was arched and lofty. In and about it, flocks of small, swallow-like birds nested, and at times broke out in musical twitterings. Barren, gloomy, and utterly forlorn was the place, without chair, mat, bed, or blanket. Every thought of its awful loneliness and abject surroundings vanished from my mind as I fixed upon its occupant. As I had stepped within the limit of Beniaga's cave, he had slowly risen from his bench of stone and now stood erect before me. Of powerful build, tall and majestic, with long snow-white hair and snowy beard, he towered like a statue of Parian marble in the dim twilight, to which now, however, my eyes had become accustomed. I gazed upon him, half in fear, half in delight. I could feel my breath coming fast and faster as I riveted my gaze upon his wonderful face, so full of love, patience, courage, and contentment. Had he bent his eyes upon me, I would never have believed him blind, for they were unclouded, full, and lustrous. And yet, on second look, I saw that their gleam was like the brightness of the polished gem that lacks the softness of living, sensitive orbs. Beniaga was clad in a rude garb of dried skins, from which the hair had been skillfully scraped. Tossed back from his broad and massive brow, his white locks hung in heavy ringlets on his broad shoulders, while his wonderful beard, as white and glistening as spun glass, around his body twice entwined, clung like a snow-like wreath about a sturdy oak by a circling gale. I just don't know about this book. Tomorrow will be page 114 in Beniaga, the Blind Guide. I'll start at the paragraph before it. Okay, see you tomorrow.